All right, guys, welcome back for episode 2. My name is Sassy Gorilla, and today we're going to be building the kind of scenic view from the coaster, or at least a part of it. And yeah, we're going to be kind of stepping away from the coaster for a minute and kind of developing the outside around it just a little bit. So I've kind of developed this little information booth. I went back and forth on what to put here. I honestly wanted a restaurant with a big patio, kind of looking at the catwalk there on the coaster. I thought it was a beautiful view from both angles, so I kind of wanted to have that. But yeah, so today we're going to be working on this beautiful building. I hope that you do enjoy it, and yeah, definitely like, subscribe, let me know what you think below in the comments. I definitely love to hear from you guys. Also, again, we still haven't named this coaster, so if you have an idea, please drop it in the comments. I'm happy to hear it, and we'll kind of, you know, take a poll on what we think we should name the coaster there. And also, we need to name the park as well, so if you have a suggestion for that, let's go ahead and do it. Anyways, let's go ahead and dive in and get started on this. I hope you enjoy. Let's take a look. So I'm going to get started by just laying down some of the foundation here. I always start there. I know a lot of creators really start with like building a frame of their house, which I think is a very clever idea. It's kind of like sketching. You kind of draw the guidelines first and then go from there. I always just do the foundation first. I think it's easier to do that way, but I also think that it definitely shows in your work when you go above and beyond and kind of throw in that frame beforehand so that you know exactly what your building is going to kind of look like. Me, on the other hand, I kind of just go from like whatever my imagination creates. So here I'm kind of creating this odd shaped building. I think that the more variation in your building that you have, the more unique it looks, and just the more realistic it looks. You don't see a lot of just plainly square buildings unless it's some massive tower, and even then you still have lots of little things sticking out, and decorations and pillars and balconies and whatnot. So that's kind of what I'm creating here, is a kind of Alpine inspired or Swiss inspired almost castle. I know that's not really a thing, but that's kind of where my imagination was going with this. So you can see I'm using the white bricks to match the rocks inside the coaster. I kind of wanted to bring that element over from the coaster into this build. So you can see I'm doing that there, and kind of keeping the wood as well from the coaster in the build. I wanted it to look very mountain-esque, while also just kind of adding this sense of beauty to the coaster as well as the entrance of the park. So, and speaking of, this is the entrance of my park. It's right inside, which is why I decided, instead of a restaurant, to go ahead and put the information booths in there. You have the I think 4. I ended up putting 4 in there. I think I started with 3, and I was like, let's go ahead and add another one just for fun. Which I honestly think I added that 4th one in there just to kind of get the paths in there correctly. So maybe it was a little bit of a cheat, but also it seemed to work. See, you can see here I'm struggling getting that path to work correctly. So I go ahead and add that 4th information booth in there, and then I delete that path and go ahead and pull both paths across, and then pull the path out to connect to the road. I struggled with this path a little bit. I wanted it to go down the sidewalk there, where like right in front of the building. I wanted to have like a different colored like brick, cobblestone brick path there, and it just wouldn't work out. So I actually just went ahead and kind of did that little slope up, and now it's handicap friendly. So there's that. So we're going ahead and adding in the second story of the building now, and I'm trying to add some variation into the walls to add some color to the building. Fun fact, and you'll see me switch these red bricks out here shortly, but these are the rough brick walls that I'm using. And if you want to change the color, and you set your color in the little color changer, and then you go back to that wall later to use, it won't be that same color. But if you actually click on one of your walls that you've already colored and use that as an item that you're working with, and then select a different rough stone brick from the menu there, it'll actually color it the same as the rest of them. So I figured that out in this tutorial. That was something I actually didn't know. And I totally figured it out just by kind of trial and error there. So yeah, I hope that little tip comes into use. And if you have questions, let me know. I'm more than happy to elaborate a little bit for you. And yeah, so I'm going ahead and adding the second story floor. I didn't really love how, I guess I should say I didn't do the inside of this building, at least not in this video. I might go back and do it, but I didn't love how the inside was looking. So I just went ahead and kind of covered up the top floor, and you'll see why here in just a few minutes after I do this wall here. But here I was trying to be clever and add a little bit of variation in the walls. I didn't just want another wall here, and I also didn't want a wall sticking through, which I ended up having anyways. So I actually used these windows and kind of made my own little wall there. And I think it turned out really, really nicely. I had to play with it a little bit to kind of get the windows even on the tops and bottoms and in the center. But after all was said and done, I think I ended up using these like 4 times throughout the build, and I think it looks absolutely amazing. And it also kind of uses that Alpine, where they just have like the massive windows in their houses. So I think it kind of translated well into this build. So yeah, you can see here, I used that little half wall there to fill in that gap because it just wasn't looking right with a whole wall of windows. So you'll see on the inside, it still sticks out there, but I don't think it's that bad. So now I'm just going to go back to the front of the building and start trying to add some layers to it. So you see here, I'm adding the supports for the balcony, and I use these stone pillars so much, or not these wood pillars rather, so much. I think they're probably one of my most used items in the game. Either the ones with the little stone block at the bottom of them or the one without. I use them so much, and you'll see me use them quite a few times in this build for different kind of design elements within the house or within the building. So yeah, just trying to add in some of the balcony, or sorry, the front there. I wasn't sure if I wanted to go with the stone all the way around. I didn't really like that. I would have rather have had these railings that I'm putting in now on the curved part as well. Unfortunately, that wasn't a possibility just because there aren't any. So I had to do with what I had, and so I went ahead and put those on there. And honestly, I think it still turned out really nicely. I think it complements the turrets really well on the building, and kind of rounds out the edges a little bit and adds a little bit of variation to keep the building just from looking so square. So I tried these arches on the front. I did not like them from the very beginning, and I knew immediately once I put them in that I was definitely going to be getting rid of those, just because it's not fitting. And yeah, here's where you see me fix these walls. I was like, why do I have red brick back here? Let's do away with that. And you see how I drug that other wall out, and I keep clicking on it and then going back into the menu and selecting my regular wall, and it makes the wall the right color. So yeah, I figured that out right there in that moment, and I really hope that it comes into handy for you as well. So here I start copying over these windows. As I said, I really, really loved that kind of feature. And so I decided to go ahead and extend that feature into the rest of the building and kind of recreate it in different areas. So you'll see those windows get kind of copied and pasted around in various ways. And I actually use the same, similar if not the same windows for the entire build. So I think that they complemented those very well. Here I am using these wood pillars again. There's 3 different sizes of them, so you can kind of use them in whatever way you want to. I'm stacking them there just to kind of add a little extra layer to the building. And then I'm also going to fill the corners of the building with it. And I actually end up later on going and putting them on the outsides of the turrets as well. Very simple process. I just made one, and then I'm copying and pasting it right over into each corner. It makes it super quick, very fast and efficient, and yeah, I think it absolutely turned out really beautiful on that part. So we're going back to the railing on the top floor now. I kind of feel like I changed these railings out. I can't exactly remember, but I wanted to kind of add some variation in the railing. So I was trying these out. I think I got rid of them though, just because they didn't stack up right, or I might have just eliminated that middle part there. Either way, we'll find out, to be determined at this point. So I'm just trying to line these up. You really have to mess with these railings when you're putting them on a building to get them to look realistic. You don't want, extra little spindles sticking out or kind of being in the middle of two other spindles where they're not supposed to be. And you also want your pillars to kind of align correctly as well. So I wanted to kind of have them right in the centered on those posts there, where the two main posts were in the center, and then the two support columns were right on the outside of those. So I was trying to line that up so that I could recreate it on the other side. And yeah, I think little attention to details like that really make a building shine. They really make it look unique and beautiful and just realistic overall, because in the real world, you wouldn't have asymmetry is very important in architecture, or symmetry rather is very important in architecture. And so not always, but like in buildings like this, in very conservative style buildings, I think that it definitely is. So trying to maintain that as much as possible. So here I am using those same windows that I used on the back window, or on the back of the building, to add windows in. And super simple process. That is two different windows stacked on top of each other and just kind of layered. And I'm just copying and pasting them right over from the back. So it made it very simple. And I actually end up using them on the bottom floor too. I went super window happy. It may have even been a little too much window, but it was just my idea, I guess. So I really struggled with the doors on this place. I could not find a door that I just absolutely loved. I ended up settling with this one and using it throughout the build. I don't remember exactly how I ended up placing them, but overall I think it still looked pretty good. These windows, by the way, if you end up having that little issue where the windows don't look like they're copying and pasting over correctly, drag them out. They actually go into the wall a little bit, and it ends up like taking the glass pane out of the window. It's really weird. So if you have that issue, like I do all the time, drag them out, and that'll fix that for you. Or it should, at least. No promises. It is Planet Coaster. Not Roller Coaster Tycoon. It's Planet Coaster after all. Some things can be very finicky and can be a little frustrating, namely the paths. So here I am trying to recreate this bottom wall and make it look the way that I want it to. I didn't want the two doors how I had the two arches before with the pillar in the center. I wanted one main door, so I ended up having to kind of drag the walls into each other. Unfortunately, it caused a bit of an issue. You can kind of see it to the left of the archway there. The wall is kind of glitching out a little bit, and that's what I'm looking at right now. You can see it on the bottom floor. And I ended up having to fix that somehow. I don't exactly remember how I fixed it, but I had to play around with it a little bit and just get it aligned correctly so that it wouldn't be kind of phasing back and forth through the wall real quick, because that's essentially what seemed to be happening. So here I am. I just copied the balcony from the back and I put it on the front. So just to kind of add some variation and some shape to the front, give it a little bit more body. I think that it definitely added a unique kind of flair on it. And I ended up putting that brick wall on the top there as well to add some variance as well. But as you can see, I love those windows and using them in that sense. I highly recommend it, and try it out in some of your builds. Speaking of trying it out in some of your builds, I do have this uploaded to the workshop, and I'll post that link in the description below so that you can use this exact building in your park as well. If you're playing on PC, I don't think that there's a workshop for console version, and I am deeply sorry for that, because the workshop is just an amazing place. It's an amazing community. I think the workshop and just the workshop makes the Roller Coaster Tycoon community. I keep saying Roller Coaster Tycoon today. Planet Coaster community just so amazing. The comments and the sharing and the likes and everything there is just, it really brings the community together. And there's something about knowing that my builds and my little scenery elements are being used in somebody else's park that just really brightens my day. So I'm gonna switch to the back of the building now a little bit, and start throwing in some of the design elements. Actually, I'm just kidding. I'm not. I I did for a second there, but I actually going to start working on the roofing. Roofing is one of my toughest subjects in Planet Coaster. Also, I do like sim builds as well, and roofing there has always been a really big struggle for me. I think when I look at buildings, I pay a lot of attention to the details on the sides of them, and kind of at the front, and like, you know, the walls of the building. I never really pay attention to the roof, and I think that's something that Planet Coaster and The Sims has taught me to do, is when I'm drawing inspiration, when I'm out in the real world, to really look at the roofing that's going on a building, because it truly is a work of art, if anything. So yeah, I'm trying to get better at that. I've made a commitment to myself to practice on the roofing, so that I can get better and build some really unique and creative designs for you guys. So this was kind of my attempt at keeping this Swiss castle-esque look. And I just added these turrets in, and I wanted to kind of have those tower spires on top of it to kind of bring that look all together. I feel like you rarely see a castle without the spires, so I kind of wanted to throw that in there. And I ended up having to raise the back spire just a little bit. It just looked, after I add the roof, or I might even do it before I add the roof, I realized that the spires being the same height kind of took away this really important sense that I wanted to give the viewer being the park guests that have, you know, no worries or cares or minds of their own at all. So I don't know why I even care. But when you're down below the building or in front of the building, I wanted to have that back spire higher to kind of create the illusion that it's much bigger than it actually is. So I ended up raising it up to add variance, and then also to kind of create that illusion there for the park guests that really don't care about it at all. I feel so underappreciated by them all the time. I really do. And my staff. My staff quit all the time, but it's probably because I'm selfish and I just build the park so much that I neglect them, and so yeah, I can kind of see why they would quit. So we're going to go ahead and keep working out this roofing situation, and here I'm trying out some different roof pieces. At this point, you can see how just horrific I am at building roofs, but here I'm trying out the haunted house roof that came with the spooky pack, and I ended up hating it. I mean, you probably hate it too. It looks horrible right there. And then I ended up switching to the square tile roof, which I think looked a lot better in contrast to the spires. So I ended up deleting those god-awful spooky house things, roof panels, and going with these more contemporary square ones instead. So just kind of messing around with the roofing here and trying to get something that looks semi-decent. Again, I'm terrible at them, so don't take my advice on roofing. You could take advice on anything else, but roofing, not quite yet. I'm getting there. If you have tips, if you have YouTube tutorials that you loved or that helped you build roofs, please send them my way. I am always looking to improve my skills there. So yeah, overall, I don't think it turned out too bad. I think it looked like it was very fitting within the home or the building. So I think it turned out okay. I ended up extending these windows up just a little bit to kind of match the ceiling of that room, and kind of create that illusion that the room is bigger than it actually is. So that's what I'm kind of doing here, and just kind of hashing out some of the roof details there. So, and then next up, we will, I believe we're going to, so when I actually did the roof, I had this issue where the wall was clipping through the top of it just a tiny bit. You can see it there just below where I was working. And it kind of gave me this challenge of, okay, how can I fix this? Like A, I'm horrible at roofing, and B, I am horrible at fixing issues when it comes to roofing. So this kind of gave me a unique challenge to kind of fix this little issue up at the top, which you'll see me do at the end. I really kind of thought about it throughout the rest of the build and went back to it. But I was definitely kind of beating myself up there. I was like, great, I have this roof that looks semi good. And I don't want to have to recreate it or figure out a different way to do it. So how can I fix this instead with what I have? So you'll see me kind of go back through that in just a little while. And you can also see that little brick piece sticking out, which is what I'm trying to fix there. It was a real pain. It did not want to go away, but I think I ended up flipping that. Yeah. If you have things clipping through walls, pro tip, try flipping the wall around if you can. If the front and back are the same, definitely try flipping the wall around, and that will oftentimes fix the clipping problem. That's something I've been trying to remember. Like when I see something clipping through, I just kind of beat myself up and I'm like, okay, let me just redo everything. And actually, I think I ended up redoing that anyways right there. So it didn't really matter. But I put in that kind of band of brick around the top just to kind of add some differentiation between the floors there. Even though that's not like a main floor, but I just wanted kind of something different there. I think that back wall was super just blank and flat and square, and the rest of the building isn't that way. So I had to kind of use some creativity to add some flair to it, which I think turned out really nicely, honestly. And in the end, you'll kind of see what I do there. But so we're just adding in some more just design details here. I'm playing around with yet again another one of these wooden pillars. As you can see, I really do use them quite a bit, and I think they're absolutely gorgeous, and they can just be used in all different types of ways. Like, just get creative. And you can even see, like, I used the other standard one. I flipped it around the long way, and then I put it up at the top and added a different color just to kind of give a little bit of flair, even though you can't really see it from like this side of the building. When you're down below, again, for the unappreciative guest, they can see it. And so I wanted to kind of make sure that was beautiful for them. I care too much. Sure. Okay, so back to the back of the building, adding in some windows, trying to get this backside kind of decorated out. I tried to change this part up with a horizontal window. I hated it. I ended up removing it and kind of going with something. Well, okay. I ended up removing half of it so that it didn't look so, horizontal. It was just kind of a smaller window. And I think that kind of turned out really nicely. And I ended up putting some plants on the side of it as well, just to add some color, which we'll get to later here in just in like a minute or so. We'll get to that. So here I'm using these like typical Spire windows to kind of add some variation in the windows. I feel like I had used those other ones a little too much, and they wouldn't really fit in the Spire anyways. So in the turret. So I used just the standard stone windows that go there, but I think it ended up looking really nicely, and again, kind of bringing in that castle-esque kind of feel to the build here. So we're moving on to landscaping now. I love landscaping. I think I talked about this in my last video a little bit. I really enjoy doing it. I am horrible at it. I think like getting the colors I want is always a massive problem for me. But what I do love about it is kind of like you see me doing with that bush there, is how much fun you can have with the different plants, and kind of mushing them together to make something really cool, or just make a plant bigger, or to make how you can pull them into the ground to make them smaller. Same with rocks. I love dealing with the rocks and kind of pushing them into the ground to make like small little stones kind of sticking out of the ground. I think they look extremely realistic and just absolutely beautiful. So I did that there as well. Trying to add some color to the house, I wanted to add some baskets. I struggled for a minute, but I went with these lattice baskets. I think that they were the most not unique, but the most fitting for this build. I ended up using them quite a few times throughout, and also using them on the bottom floor as well there. So yeah, I think it added not only some color, but also an additional layer. I think the more layers you can add into a house, or into a build, the more realistic it looks. It's not just, you don't want a flat wall. So just keep layering things on. That's kind of my tip there. Here I am trying to fix this issue. And then I got sidetracked because I'm super ADD, and I was like, oh my God, look at this cool thing. And I'm just going to stick that up there real quick. So I did that. And then I was like, okay, let me go fix this. And I got distracted again. And I was like, okay, here's these cool little hangy things. Let's hang them there. And maybe we can add some lanterns or something onto those to add some light. Okay, now let's go back to trying to fix this thing. I got distracted several times there. And it may have been me procrastinating trying to hide this little clipping problem, or it may have just been me being a little ADD there, but either way. So I tried to stick with the conventional colors of brown and white and copper to kind of tie into all of this on that chimney. So I think the colors that I chose on it were very unique and very beautiful. And I really liked how that turned out. And then I'm using the storm lanterns on the house. It's not typically how they would be used, but I think here in just a second I'll switch to the night mode for you, and you can see just how beautiful they are. I think they put off one of the best like glows in the game, which is kind of a weird thing to think about, but I don't know. It's something that I think about. Here, I'm using that little well. I don't really know exactly what that thing is called. It looks like a little well to me. But I actually did the same thing on the bridge for the coaster in episode 1, where I put the one on top and then flipped it upside down and used the bottom of it as a base for it, just to kind of give it some height. So that's a little trick you can use as well. I used these lampposts and just kind of sunk them into the pillars of the veranda there, just to kind of add some height to that section. I think it was really low down, and I wanted to kind of add something there to kind of bring the height to that section. These lights that I'm placing now, they're some of my favorite kind of ambience lights or special effects lights. I use them a lot, especially in roofing. I think if you color them the same color as your roofs, and use like the lightest shade of that color, it turns out absolutely stunning. And at night, it really lights up your park very, very nicely. So you'll see that in a lot of my builds, in the steampunk world I did, and the Bavarian Plaza that I built as well. It was absolutely stunning. It looked like something straight out of like Disney World or something. So I think it's beautiful. I loved it. Here I am kind of bringing those plants from the front of the building to the back of the building, just to kind of round out the front and the back, kind of bring them together as one cohesive piece. So I kind of wanted to bring that, and you see me kind of looking back and forth, like, how does the front look compared to the back? Like, is it the same building? I wanted it to be the same, so and not look like two separate buildings, yet the back is like more stone than the front. So Okay, so I really, 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 really wanted a table for my veranda, but the only tables are, unfortunately, they have to be placed on pads. And so I was like, how can I get creative here and make a table? And I really loved this idea of taking the wagon wheels and kind of twisting them around. And so I played around with that for a minute to see if I could make something work. And then I used the top of the train, flipped it upside down, and I placed those on top of the train smokestack just to see how it would look. I didn't love it. I think the base of it could have been different. But then I found this amazing saw, and we used to have these huge saws hanging in our house when I lived in like this really rustic house that my father built, and we had these giant saw blades up on the walls that were painted. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna kind of bring that as kind of like my signature to this piece by kind of implementing that into the table there. So yeah, I thought that was a very unique way to do the table. And I actually took multiple saw blades and twisted them around to kind of round out the sharp edges on it, because like sitting at a saw blade table probably would not be the safest thing to do. Please have your tetanus shot. So the adding in some more of the storm lanterns here just to kind of add color to the back for the night scenery, and also on the balcony as well. And then I'll go ahead and add in the plants, and we're almost finished here. You can really see it's taking its shape and kind of becoming a scenic view from A, the roller coaster, and B, the front of the park. So I think it's absolutely looking great. Now I'm going to add in the edging of the roof, and this is where I finally fix the clipping on the roof. And I think I did a very good job of it. I'm not going to discount myself. I did something unique, and I even went further than just fixing the clipping to and you'll see what I mean here in just a second. But I think I got a little creative bug there, and I was like, you know what, let's just throw this in there. Again, this is solely for the purpose of the park guest, but that flooring didn't actually work, but I ended up changing the stone color in it, and I don't think anybody would ever notice that didn't actually fit there, but it did. So but it didn't. So yeah, so let's go ahead and get that piece, if we'll ever do it. Come on, Cam, we can do it. And go fix the front of the building. I think I was just really fixated on this back and just making it look perfect. Also, I really wanted something to fill in this little area above the window. I think it looked very blank. So I tried these plants, but they ended up being too high up, and I ended up moving them. And so we never really found anything to go above that door. So it still remains to be the blank canvas that it is, to be filled in on another day. I don't think it looks too bad. That actually would have worked really well, the little covering over the window, but I don't know, it just didn't fit into the overall build. So I decided against it. Okay, for real this time, we're actually going to fix the clipping on the roof. I'm telling you, I cannot stay focused on what I'm doing ever. So I keep having to go back to this, but we're finally going to fix it this time. I promise you. I promise. I hope I promise. I might break a promise, but I think we are. And now you'll get to kind of see how I got creative with this and added some extra flair to the roofing. But I did try to add these little pieces on to the horizontal pieces as well. But I just really didn't like how the corners looked of it. And again, see, told you, I got distracted. I broke my promise to you. I'm so sorry. But I did not like how the edging or the corners looked on the edging. So I decided against it. So we're going in, placing some few final touches on the building here. This wall, again, I was talking about how just kind of flat it looked. Even though I added the different variations into the colors of it, I still wasn't super satisfied with it. So I ended up using one of these canopies and kind of dragging it across. It didn't work right at first, but if you looked carefully at the window, as you can see, I kind of did there. It did line up properly once I played around with it for a minute. And then it also lined up really well with the storm lantern there. You can see, I think it definitely added a sense of realism to that. So that it wasn't just kind of hanging off. And it kind of gave it this really cool like back alley look. like this old spooky back alley. I don't know. I liked it. I think it turned out really, really well. This is where I try to do the diagonal edging, but as you can see, the corners weren't really matching up and I didn't really like it. But finally, I'm working on fixing this clipping problem, and I ended up even dragging it all the way across, even though it wasn't an issue there. And I even went further, like I said, and I put in a second layer of it. That way it didn't look so much like a mistake as it did as something intentional, and I think it added some beautiful layers to an otherwise flat kind of standard roof. So yeah, absolutely. So in conclusion, I think that it absolutely looked overall beautiful. I think it turned out really, really well. I did put it in the workshop for you guys, so it is there for you to enjoy and kind of add to your park and to see how much you absolutely love it or hate it. Please let me know in the comments what you think. I absolutely would love to hear what you have to say, and any tips, comments, suggestions, I'm always happy to hear. Or if you want me to build something, I'm always happy to take on a challenge, so definitely let me know. But yeah, I really appreciate you guys watching. I hope that you enjoyed, and again, like, subscribe, follow me on Twitch. I'm always present there, and yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you.